This is an open letter to friends and folks. Uh, an associate recently approached me and said, "Do you think American people are bad people?" It was so direct, I was a little puzzled. I'm like, uh, I'm sorry? What? Uh, well, as I told him, no, actually, and it's unfortunate that it, such perception may. It's unfortunate that such perception has come about, or the thought has come about to somebody, and the thought of such perception has come about. No, this is very unfortunate because apparently, people really didn't get to the core of my arguments. Here's the thing. I don't believe American people or any people are bad. I don't believe that. Just like I don't believe children can be bad. I don't believe children can be bad. Uh, I do believe that children can be manipulated in doing bad things, just like the adult population can be manipulated into doing bad things. But that is because children lack information. This is exactly the reason they don't put children on trial as adults, because they consider it's not because children are shorter than adults that they don't put them in adult courts. It's not because children are, it's not for any other reason that they put children in juvenile court and not in adult court. There is only one reason, and that is children can be easily manipulated to do bad things by themselves, manipulated by people around them, manipulated by their environment, manipulated by their friends, manipulated by movies, video games, everything. Because children can be easily manipulated to do bad things, something as simple as bullying. A child learns bullying at home and comes to school and practices bullying. Learns bullying and practices bullying. You can't tell me that the child just became a bully on his own. It's not possible. The child learns bullying at home, goes to school and executes bullying tactics. Period. This is manipulation of his environment at home that causes the bad behavior. They just don't sit down and think and say, okay, from today I'm going to be a bully in my fourth grade class. No, he sees bullying at home, either his father bullying his mother or his mother bullying his father, or his older sibling bullying him, or his father bullying the older siblings, or some combination is taking place, and the child has watched and learned, and now the child practices. So the reason for bad behavior is manipulation. Now the problem with children is that this is the same problem that adults can have. The less informed you are as a child or as an adult, the less informed you are, the more easily you can be manipulated. The less informed an individual, an entity, the less informed it is, the more easily it can be manipulated. He, she, or it can be manipulated. Think of it as, trying to force a chicken to follow a path, as opposed to trying to force a dog to follow a specific path if he doesn't want to. For a chicken, even if the chicken doesn't want to follow a specific path, you can just, put food on the ground every 12 inch or so, and the chicken will follow the path to the slaughter. But a dog, if the dog can hear other dogs screaming, let's say, forgive me, but let's say at the slaughterhouse somewhere in Southeast Asia, if the dog can hear other dogs screaming inside the slaughterhouse, doesn't matter how much food you put on the ground, you can't manipulate this dog to walk to the slaughterhouse because he has more information. The chicken hears those other chickens screaming in the slaughterhouse, but the chicken is not informed enough to understand what the fuck they're saying. The chicken thinks, oh, they're having fun, living, eating, whatever. They're having fun. And the chicken doesn't pay attention to the information provided that this is slaughterhouse, this is danger, don't go that way, although the food is pointing you to that direction. The chicken can't distinguish because the chicken is not informed enough. The chicken has another issue, it's not intelligent to be informed enough. And the dog is intelligent enough, and once the dog gets the information that there is something bad happening to a bunch of dogs over there in the slaughterhouse, doesn't matter how much food you put on its trail, the dog will not follow the food and the dog will run the other way. That's the thing with children. Because children have very little information to work with, they can be easily manipulated. Give me, couple of days talking to a kid, and I can assure you, I can make that kid think twice about Santa Claus. I can manipulate that kid to be scared of Santa Claus. Give me a couple of days of, talking and telling, fucked up stories about Santa Claus, and the kid will, become afraid and will hate Santa Claus after a few days of somebody stringing some bullshit together for him. Some bullshit stories, some scary stories about Santa Claus. And after a few days, the kid will be scared. Why? Because the kid has just recently heard about Santa Claus, and now this motherfucker is telling him that Santa Claus is bad and how bad Santa Claus is, and all you need is a couple of more grown-ups start telling the kid that Santa Claus is bad and eats brains and kills children, and suddenly on the third day the kid is going to be sure that he hates Santa Claus, he or she hates Santa Claus. So because the kid comes to the table with very little information of his own, it's very easy for one adult, and it's even more easier for a couple of adults manipulating the child into hating Santa Claus within 3 days, 2 days. The same thing is about the population of any country, any tribe, any group. If the population is not informed, as the child isn't, if you keep information from the public, and whatever information you give them is opinions and manipulators and stories about how, for example, how bad the Santa Claus is, equivalent to those stories that draw Santa Claus in a bad perspective. Just like you can draw Santa Claus in a bad perspective for you can also manipulate adults by telling them tall tales and describing certain individuals, certain entities as bad actors, bad individuals, bad. So the point is, and if the adults are as uninformed as the children are, they also will believe those bad stories about those supposedly bad entities. So it just becomes who's a better storyteller first. Who's a better storyteller? That, I mean, I guess, you know, these news medias that we recognize, Fox and MSNBC and all of them from all sides. It's just they find a bunch of good storytellers, and they give them, you know, pens and papers, write the script for these presenters to read, and they find good storytellers in the form of presenters as well, and they just churn story after story of pure bullshit most of the time. They just mix, it's not no longer news. You can't make up your own mind. They just give you their mind. They give you opinions. They just keep churning out story. Opinion is story. I tell you a story about how fucked up Santa Claus is, and you know, if you don't know much about Santa Claus, you will think Santa Claus is an asshole. It's just, you know, because I'm a good storyteller and I've decided to manipulate you to believe in this way. Now, in opposition, the more informed an individual is, the less you can manipulate the motherfucker. It becomes harder and harder to manipulate informed people. Let me describe it. To try to tell an engineer something that he's doing is wrong, that he has been doing for 20 years, and he has learned every aspect of that simple thing that he does. He has learned every aspect of, you know, pouring a foundation. He's on the site engineer, and he specializes in pouring foundation. He knows everything to know about that. You know how hard it is to try to manipulate this motherfucker that what he's doing is wrong in some way or another, or in general, something about this is wrong. You can't, because he knows there is everything to know about this, and he has done it, and he has seen it done, and he has done it, and he has learned about it. He have read books about it. So you can't really manipulate this motherfucker into thinking what he's doing is wrong. The way he's doing it is wrong. You can't manipulate him, because he knows 10 times more than you do about that subject matter. That's it. Imagine the population. A population of a country or a population of a tribe, if they are well informed, they cannot be easily manipulated into doing bad things. However, if they are poorly informed, like children, they can easily be manipulated in doing bad things. Period. Your Lord and Savior, Mr. Jesus Christ. Let's assume he was a real person and not a fictitious character. They say his most, you know, well-recognized proverb, I guess they call it, most recognized thing that he supposedly have said is the piece that he says, the phrase that goes like, forgive them, Father, because they do not know what they have done. They not know what they have done. And this supposedly is a plea of Jesus to God that forgive those people who are, you know, putting him on the cross, nailing him on the cross, because he's making excuse for them to his Father, saying that they don't know what they have done. That, in other words, Jesus, your Jesus, is recognizing that people do bad things 99% of the time because they're uninformed. And the more uninformed they are, the more easily they can be manipulated to do bad things. Jesus says, "Forgive them, Father. These folks are not bad, they're just ignorant. They're children." So you can't, nobody, not even Jesus, can blame a public, a population, a tribe for doing bad things, because frankly, if they knew better, they wouldn't do the bad things that they have done or they are going to do. The reason they're doing the bad things is because they don't know any better. They have been, because they don't know any better, they don't have enough information. They have been easily manipulated by their leaders to do bad things. All of it goes back to information. All of it goes back to information. How much information do the people have? And how much the leaders or the society, how much the consciousness of the society is forcing people to know more? How much more factual information is provided to the public, and how much is expected of the public to know? How much the public is expected to know? You see, here's, on one hand, you understand that in Uncle Sam's land, somehow ignorant has become cool. I went over this on the other video. Ignorance has become a cool thing to be. It's cool to be ignorant, you know. It was perpetuated by, as I said in the other video, you know, there's the TV program that one of their characters was named Fonz, or the Fonz. It's an ignorant but lovable character, but ignorant. And the whole, you know, it was cool just because he was cool and he didn't need to know shit. And then later on, the more you go forward, you see these sitcoms that, you know, the population of Uncle Sam's land so love and so much watches and loves a lot. The characters have been ignorance after ignorance after ignorance. King of Queens, ignorant. You know, everybody loves Raymond, ignorant. Friends, it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, guys who are one more ignorant than the other. And you keep going forward in time, and you see that this is what the society is providing, as you be like this, and ignorance is good. Ignorance is acceptable, no problem. You can be as ignorant as you want, but you can still be cool and popular. This is what has been perpetuated. You know, and the wise guys have always been described as foreigners, malicious, evil. The scientists and the wise guys have always been evil in these programs and these TV shows and these movies. The ignorant fool has always saved the day just because. And Batman, for example, the guy is a college kid, doesn't know Spider-Man is a college kid, or is a just started a job, doesn't know his ass from the hole in the ground, but he saves the world. All of these superheroes are perpetuation of ignorance, in my view. I could be wrong, but they're all perpetuation of ignorance, that you can be an average person not knowing shit and not caring to know shit, but you can also save the day. You see Spider-Man. And then you see this man and that man and the other man, and now there are even these mutants, the X-Men, and they're all, you know, born special. They don't know much. They're all young jackoffs, don't know shit from Sherlock, and they save the day. They save the day. Yes, they're persecuted and this and that and the other, and but they fight the evil that usually happens to be the evil happens to be a very, very well-known scientist. Scientists are always evil, described as people who, with intelligence and with information. People with information have always been described as evil in Hollywood. This is perpetuation of ignorance. This is advocating that you don't want to be evil, you don't want to know shit, you want to be simple, because simple people are the ones who save the day. Really? How many times in real life that is practiced? How many times in real life have you seen that the average folk has saved the day? That's why, I mean, the guy drops in the airplane and can't breathe. They don't say, average guy, come over, average guy, we need your help. No, they say, do we have a doctor in the house? This guy is dying. We don't need average Joe. We don't need an ignorant motherfucker. We need a guy who specializes, who knows shit. Even if he's not a doctor, knows shit. In reality, that's what happens. But in the movies, it's always, in the TV series, in what Hollywood perpetuates, what the society perpetuates, is that no, the average Joe always saves the day from the evil scientist by defeating the evil scientist. So the result is the society is basically a society is on the path that says, okay, you don't need to know stuff. In fact, if you don't know stuff, you're much cooler, and it's more probable for you to save the day if you don't know stuff than if you do know stuff. So the people become ignorant, don't want to know things, don't care to know things, they don't care it's cool to know things. And then the result is when they do bad shit, or some of them do bad shit, you can't really blame them. All you can say is, okay, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing, what they have done. Just like you can't blame a child for being a bully in school because he's obviously practicing what he was informed, as much as he was informed. At home he was informed that this is how you do business. He has gone to school and practiced it. So what's the problem? I mean, you can't expect an 18-year-old, 19-year-old who has watched Rambo in Afghanistan to go to Afghanistan and not behave like Rambo. You see where I'm going with this? It's sort of like, it is what it is. But then when that soldier in Afghanistan behaves like Rambo and a bunch of civilians end up dead, you can't really blame the guy, because when you talk to him, he's a child. He doesn't, deductive reasoning was not part of his education. Deductive reasoning. Reasoning was not part of his education. Neither was geopolitics, nor was social sciences, neither was civil sciences, nor was civility, it wasn't part of his education. He wasn't informed with regards to these matters. And not only he wasn't informed, he didn't want to be informed, because then he wouldn't be cool if he's informed. So he didn't want to be informed so that he can be cool. He can be considered as one of the cool guys. And then the society didn't expect him to be informed. And whatever little information that he got it from Hollywood, which makes up their own history. Hollywood just a lot of education in in the West, you can say, in the pink skin areas of the world, a lot of education is done through Hollywood and TVs and movies, all of which comes from Hollywood. That's where the people get their major education from. And if you and the reality is, if somebody watches Mr. That guy who produces these fictitious movies, Quentin Tarantino, if somebody watches his movies from Pulp Fiction to Inglorious Bastards to he would think that Hitler was killed during World War II, and Germans lost during World War II in the cinema in France, and it just goes on. They keep pumping out bullshit through a screen, and that's where people learn most of the history that they know, which is pure nonsense. You can't teach geopolitics in 1.5 hours of entertainment on a screen. You can't teach geopolitics. The Django Unchained. Django Unchained, Inglorious Bastard, and Pulp Fiction. Somebody, imagine a 14-year-old kid watching these three movies, including with all other movies, but watching these three as well, and try to ask him some kind of history question. This is his knowledge of history. Imagine a lot of 14-year-olds' knowledge of history comes from Quentin Tarantino movies. And that's true, really. Because it's cool to know movies, you can talk about them with your friends. It's cool, the society has perpetuated that it's cool to know about movies and know information, irrelevant information about the stars of those movies and those actors. Just knowing those irrelevant information is cool. But knowing the actual, factual history is not cool. That's, some nerd or some geek or some brainiac knows the factual history, and who cares about the factual history? That's not cool. But Quentin Tarantino movie is cool. That you should know, as well as the life history of the actors who played in that movie. That's the problem. People are not bad. Children are not bad. People cannot be bad for the same reason that children cannot be bad. Because it's specifically because it's proven time and time again, if people are really informed, they do the right thing. And usually it's a more gracious, more humanitarian thing that they do. People, if they are well informed, they always take the high road. If people are well informed, they 90% of the time take the high road, because well-informed people are gracious, are human. But when people do bad things, you can't say they're bad people. They're ignorant. That's why, a lot of times in the society, I literally, walk away. I used to, stand up and, try to, go at it with the guy who was talking nonsense, but it's been a while. I just walk away because what's the use? The guy has reached this age, and this is how much information that he has, that he or she is babbling out that an opinion based on that information. And just by the opinion, you can guess how much information he has. Just by the opinion. And you hear the opinion, you calculate in your mind that how much information he has, and then you just feel sorry for the motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? You have to. You can't take offense when a child comes and smacks you across the face for no reason. You can't take offense because he's committed an ignorant act. Obviously, he has been manipulated. Obviously, because it's a child who has very little information about the world around him, so he can be easily manipulated. So how can you get mad about a child, and how can you say a child is bad when you know that whatever he's doing is he's manipulating into doing it, and manipulation of the child is quite easy because he doesn't have that much information to work with. I'm sorry. I mean, then you come to democracy and you find out that, okay, you can't even blame Bush for being bad because he wasn't bad. He was just ignorant. The form of governance in which you can't even blame the leaders for bad shit that has happened because the leaders are also, you can tell, they're ignorant, then I'm sorry, that's not a good form of governance. If the populace has the option of choosing an ignorant leader, that form of government is not good. If the populace, because you can't always be sure the populace is informed. As an empire ages, the populace becomes less informed and more at ease, less informed, more more certain of their place in the world, and becomes, the population, every empire, this happens to every empire, the population becomes lazy over time, and doesn't care to know, and then they're told, it's advertised to them that it's not important to know, blah blah blah. All of that gathers, and the population basically, it becomes a little laid back with regards to information, at least. There are a lot of people who are in Uncle Sam's land who are working two, three jobs in a day. They have 2 jobs or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. It's not laid back in terms of the amount of work is done. It's laid back in the amount of information that people, factual information that people feel is necessary for them to gather. That's the laziness of I don't need to know. What do you mean you don't need to know? Everybody needs to know. You got to read as much as you can. You got to learn as much as you can, because especially, here's the thing, folks. People of Uganda can be as ignorant as they want to be, because Uganda is not a superpower. This is the whole, with great power comes great responsibility. But people of, a nuclear powered nation cannot be ignorant. People of Uganda, people of Afghanistan can be as much as ignorant as they like to be, and they can choose as ignorant leaders as they like to choose. Both the people and the leaders can be as ignorant as you want in Afghanistan, because they can't do much harm. They don't have the greatest military in the world. They don't have the greatest, economy in the world, and they don't have the greatest nuclear weapons in the world. So they can be as ignorant as you want. They can't do much damage to the rest of the planet. But the people that of a superpower nation, they can't be ignorant, because then a lot of bad shit can happen, because there is great power involved. You give a great power to an uninformed kid. An uninformed kid is going to shoot himself in the face. You see what I'm by accident, but I mean, one can say Iraq War was a shooting oneself in the foot. It was a solution looking for a problem. Iraq War was an example of a solution looking for a problem. There was no problem there. What was the problem? It was peace and quiet, and a lot of people were alive. Now still you don't have peace and quiet, and a lot of people, about 5 million people are dead. So no, people are not bad. Uncle Sam's children are not bad. Neither are any of the pink skins are bad. Brown skins are not bad. Black skins are not bad. Pink skins are not bad. Yellow skins are not bad. Nobody is bad. Just like there are no bad children. But the reality is that if the people are uninformed, they can be easily manipulated to do bad things. So the solution is people have to be encouraged to be well informed. Well informed. And good information doesn't come out of, TV or Hollywood. Good information, let's put it this way, good information doesn't come out of Hollywood. Because they're in the business of fiction. And good information is not always, so doesn't grab you. Good information is a little boring. You read and you read, and after so many pages of good information, maybe you grab one moment of, adrenaline rush. While Hollywood was trying to create 1.5 hours to 2 hours of adrenaline rush, orgasm or adrenaline rush. So good stories are, fictitious most of the time. Reality is a little boring, time consuming, you're learning facts, geoeconomics, geopolitics, geography, history, world history. Here's the thing, if you want to be a superpower, if you are a superpower, your citizens have to know 10 times as much as the citizens of the countries that are not superpower. No, they have to know 10 times more than them because they're superpower. There is less margin of error for a superpower. So the people who live in the land of a superpower have to be 10 times more informed than the people of a tribe which is not a superpower. So because these people, there is a thin margin of error, and if they make bad decisions, bad things happen, and a lot of people suffer. Again, the only way to prevent bad things from happening is to make sure people are not ignorant. People are well informed. And people are not children. People are adults. That means they're well informed. I mean, a lot of times I have a feeling like 90% of the men and women who are in court, criminal court, in criminal proceedings, I feel they all, even those who are above 18, 90% of them, they all should go to juvenile court because they're simple minds. They have simple minds because they have very little information to work with, and they have simple minds, so they have been easily manipulated by somebody or other. So I think 90% of the jail population in Uncle Sam's land should not have gone to adult court. They should have all gone to juvenile court because they're not there. How can you, I mean, yeah, the guy is supposedly an adult. He's like 30 years old. But when you speak with the motherfucker and you hear his opinions or what he's saying, you feel that he should be 12. The brain is 12, no, maybe 15. He's not 30, he's not 40. So how can you put such a person on trial on adult court for a crime that he has done when mentally he's 15? Not because he's mentally backward or retarded, not necessarily. Just because the amount of information that he has been given, that he has absorbed, is not enough to consider him as a well-informed adult. He's a child. He's absorbed a lot of useless information about movies and actors and, jerk-offs, but not real information. So if he hasn't absorbed a lot of real, important, factual information about society, about civility, about finance, about economy, about politics, about geography, about history, world history, if he hasn't absorbed a lot of information about these matters, how the fuck can you consider him an adult? Are you fucking kidding me? Adult is not an age. Adult is how much information do you have? How much information do you carry in your head? If it's substantial, you're an adult. If it's not substantial, you're a child. My father lived to over 90 years old. At 90, he was still 15. My sister is right now like 60, 65 years old. You talk to her and you hear her perspective, she's like 16. You think she's 16. That's how, how rigid the brain is. There's not much information there. It's just not there. Didn't care to. It didn't care to get those more information. Didn't want to get more information. Was too lazy to get information, and the society didn't, force him to get informed. They didn't expect him to pick up a lot of information. So my sister is 16 at 60. And you can say that a lot about a lot of men and women in the society around you. 16 going on 60. 15 going on 50. Has the opinions that one would expect, and with lack of information comes simple opinions that you expect a child to have. When you have very little information to work with, just like children, you can reach very limited number of conclusions with these information you have. Very limited number of opinions can be created out of this little information that you have. Why little information? Because most of your information comes from, movies and TV shows. Absolute, total, fictitious programs. News programs, they're also fictitious. They're just opinion driven, story driven. Mr. Bill O'Reilly comes and sits down and tells you a tall tale. Fucking guy. No, folks, I don't think anybody is bad. I don't think no group of people you can consider them bad. If they have done bad things in the past and are doing bad things now, or will do bad things in the future, you can only say that, well, they're uninformed. Forgive them, Father, because they know not what they have done. But then you understand that if you do, if the empire, let's put it this way, you will not you cannot hold on to power, to great power, if you stay ignorant. You cannot hold on to great power if you stay ignorant and keep making mistakes. You see, it's a question of the bully. The bully has learned bullying from his father and has gone to school and has become a bully himself or herself. And through his ignorance, because the child has very little information to work with, so he learns bullying from his father because he hasn't seen any other examples of how to behave, so he adopts the behavior, the bullying behavior. So he goes to school and practices bullying out of his ignorance. And we all know what happens to bullies. If they bully people one too many times, something bad happens to the bully. So one can behave in an ignorant fashion for a while. An uninformed person can, behave in an ignorant fashion and keep behaving bad until one day tables turn and their bad behavior results into a bad response. So no, I don't think any group of people are bad. Just like I don't think children are bad. They're just ignorant. Best solution, I hold people who designed their educational system responsible. I hold those people who enforce the educational system. I hold the society who keeps lowering their expectation of the educational system. Instead of, forcing the kids to telling them that you have to learn, there's no two ways about it. The educational system in Uncle Sam's land keeps, you know, making the test easier. Sort of like, okay, if you don't like to learn, that's fine. Maybe you take the test 3 times until you get all the questions right. Open book, open book. So, folks, this is it. Society has lowered their expectations of how much they expect their populace to know. When you lower your expectations of how much the people need to know, well, your people know less. When people know less, that means they can be easily manipulated. When people can be easily manipulated, they can easily be manipulated to do bad things. And you really can't hold them responsible for the bad things they have done because they were not informed. They're like children. Solution? Let your teachers, first of all, pay your teachers well so older teachers will go back to school, becoming older people. So older people will want to go teach. If you increase the salary of teachers, older people who have a need for higher income will consider becoming teachers if the salary of teachers are increased. And that's who you want. You want older people to become teachers, not younger people. A 21-year-old teacher who doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground is no good as a teacher, because she herself doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. What can she teach to the students when she's lost? She has very little information to dispense. Increase the salary of the teachers, your teachers. Allow those older teachers who start teaching, allow them an open hand to slap a few faces and kick a few asses of, in order to keep order and civility in the class, and in order to, show that, force the students to learn. Allow the teachers to, kick a few ass when they need to, and increase the expectations of your people to know things. Increase the expectations. Make the test harder, let the motherfuckers fail, and not necessarily in sciences. I mean, the test in with regards to economy and society and civility and civil service, these tests have to be in high school, and they have to be real hard. So people have to really learn the shit. When they learn the shit, they cannot be easily manipulated. Therefore, for example, George W. Bush could not be elected as president, because people are not fools. They understand that he doesn't have a good brain in his head, so they don't vote for him. So maybe the Iraq War would not happen. So maybe bad things would not be committed during the Iraq War by the population, who's also, again, are uninformed.